right, this is the Committee on Legislative Affairs and Elections. This is Thursday, March 26, 2015. We're at 6 p.m. I have Councilor Sony.
Here.
Councilor Marchese.
Yes, sir.
Councilor Napolitano. And I have Councilor Caponas, ex officio.
Here.
We have 4 members present. We do have a quorum.
United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first piece of business.
Madam Chairman?
The order.
If I may, can we suspend the rules and take item number 2, please?
Is there a motion on the floor?
Second motion.
Please take item 2.
Item number 2. This is a resolution up by Councilor Michael K. Marchese to check to see if flagging fire hydrants with fluorescent, highly visible reflective 7-foot rods off legs is a statewide law before requesting a mandate from the Great and General Court.
Council Marchese?
Yeah, could Mr. Burley please say flagging fire hydrants, flagging fluorescent fire hydrants 5 times? Can we have Lieutenant Colley here, please? Motion to have Lieutenant Colley come before us. No, you're not Lieutenant. Well, you're Deputy Chief, right? Jesus, I know I was. I'm having a senior moment here.
That's all right.
Please state your name.
Deputy Chief Anthony Colley.
Thank you.
Yes, I spoke to Mr. Colley briefly today, and I guess the city is proceeding and doing something to, to do this problem in the future. When I first put this on, I thought that, it would be good for the city to have something here, and as it says, statewide law requested a mandate from the Great and General Court. So I believe, John, I was trying to do something for the city and try to see if a state law could be also. And that's what this was intended. But, it's meant to be good, but if you have, you're more knowledgeable than I am, and I'd appreciate your input.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up the state side of things. We, obviously after this winter, we've been looking for different reasons, different ways to combat finding these hydrants. And we have hydrant maps, we have hydrant location maps and different things like that. We actually use Google Earth a lot of times on like an iPad to find them in the real big storms, and it would all work out. But the flags work out great. And it's interesting, the state recently adopted NFPA 1 as a fire code, which is a new standard. And in that fire code, it requires that all of them are marked. So that's a state code, but they actually omitted that portion of it. They omitted a lot of different things out of it, but that was one of the things they left out of it. So maybe sending something to the court, the high court, would get them on board. But I think we really need to act as a community, and we're looking at it on our side. We started talking about it about a month, 2 months ago. So we are working on it as far as the fire department's concerned for future, looking at the cost of what it would be for every hydrant and, things like that.
Are you all set? Council Marchese?
Yeah, I'm all fine with that,
Council Napolitano?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to a few contractors who work on different commercial lots, and what they've told me is that it actually could be very easy to manufacture even on the city level. It's just it's a rod with an attachment that can just be you remove one of the covers, slide it down, fasten it down, and then you've got something that you can remove seasonally. I mean, you wouldn't want to keep it year round.
So there's a couple things that can be tied with that. If you start getting into removing them seasonally and putting them back on, there's a manpower issue. You're tying up, there's a lot of hydrants, you're tying up, springtime when we're concentrating on cleaning the streets and doing those types of things, that's when they'd be coming down. Wintertime, when we're preparing for the winter, we have to stop and worry about putting these back up. So something that you want on there, you really want it to be as permanent as the hydrant. You're right. People take old rebar, they bend it around, couple turns, and it's great. But we also know the price of scrap metal. And anything that can be taken will be taken. So we have to look at maybe a plastic alternative, fiberglass. And then there's a price. Even rebar and steel, times 4,000 or however many thousand we may need, can get expensive. We started doing some preliminary prices, and they range anywhere from, $12 to $13 up to $25. You can get real fancy. We don't want to get so fancy, but we want them to just really serve their purpose. 3 or 4 feet above a hydrant, which will give it a 7-foot, viewing angle. Something that can't harm people.
I hadn't thought about the scrap metal aspect. Have we ever had a situation in the city where anybody was stealing the covers?
Thankfully not. Not so much so that it's been like an epidemic or a problem, but there's definitely, we don't want to give them a reason to take something off of there.
All right, thank you.
Counsel Capone?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You just gave them ideas now. And this might be an unfair question, do you know how many hydrants we have in the city?
I don't know offhand. For some reason, it's well over, it might be 1,500 to 2,000.
Okay.
I think that we're responsible for. There's some private hydrants, but
Yeah.
I don't know the exact figure. We obviously have that. I'm sure the chief would know that off
Great.
the top of his head.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
Counsel Marchese?
I think when, I was doing this, I actually wanted to find a uniform code for, not only for the city of Everett, but something that maybe we could send on also, send it to the, the Grayton General Court, and see if we could have something passed on what we did here. And that was, I think, the biggest issue. My first issue was Everett, the safety of the people in Everett, and the visibility, because to be here, they're going by GPS looking for these things. We can put up something you can see with your eye, and if the people notice, they remember, they can also shovel in front of the house, because I'm sure the snow was so high, people don't even know if they had a fire hydrant in front. But, I'm open to any, situations, whatever's going to be good for the city of Everett. And, I can't see the cost outweighing the public safety on them. If there's a cost that's going to be done, I think this is one of the few things we could spend money on that really makes sense. And I would like some input. I would like to send this to the general court, but I also would like us to come out here tonight with some kind of recommendation for these fire hydrants, if we could. So, if you could bear with me, who would do the investigation? Could we report back to us with some kind of ideas?
We can come back to you with a report as far as the number of hydrants, an accurate number of hydrants, a rough estimate of what it would cost with some different alternatives to what the markers would be. Something that's aesthetically pleasing but also serves a purpose.
Yeah.
And make no mistake about it, they make a difference. They make a huge difference with us in the winter. Even in, you can have some reflective tape on them, we can pick them out. We know sometimes hydrants are really low to the ground, and, we can drive past them. It's, they do serve a great purpose to what we do.
So, would a motion be to send us to fire prevention, fire
Yeah,
safety?
fire prevention and back to the fire department. We can take care of it and
Yeah.
get you some results back.
The motion would be to send us to the fire department, the fire prevention, to report to us when they come up with what works for them, because you guys are you guys know the business, and we're here to keep everybody safe and to accommodate the fire department if we can. So,
Before on the motion, we have Counsel Simonelli.
I'd just like to say, I think this is a great thing, and Councilor Marchese did a great thing. I think Edwards it's a long time, it should have happened before, and it's a great thing, and it's gonna help the whole city out knowing where they are, and instead of shoveling them out, if you have the flag sticking out, I think it's a great thing. So I want to commend Councilor Marchese and the fire department on whatever happened to them, I know it's gonna be something good. So whatever we decide, it's something for the city of Everett and the safety of Everett. Okay, thank you.
Counsel Capone?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I agree. It's an excellent piece. Whenever you're talking about public safety, you can't go wrong. So I commend the councilor for it. In terms of getting back with the different options, costs, that kind of stuff, what kind of time frame do you think you need for that?
A couple weeks.
Is that enough time, or?
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks, we can work on it, get an accurate number, get some price examples, get some examples of what we could possibly use, 2 or
Great.
3 weeks.
Wonderful. If there's no other questions, I'd make a motion to excuse the customary thanks. I don't know if there's any other
Yeah,
questions.
second, yeah.
Thank you.
A motion would be, on the motion that we had to refer this to fire prevention, fire safety, to report back to us in a few weeks what their recommendation is for adequate visibility on it.
Second the motion.
1 month. 1 month.
1 month.
So we have a motion on the floor for fire prevention and report back to us in 1 month. Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye?
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Ian. He was-
Regular order, report back, report back to business.
All right. Next piece of business is item number 1. This is an order up by Council Michael K. Marchese that the city government return 90% of all the revenue derived from the wind project funds to the taxpayer base.
Counsel Marchese?
If I may, I know this was before us before, we said a significant amount, but I have to tell you, where I see money, the city's bleeding money right now, and I'd hate to put $30 million in the hands of the city. And I'm gonna explain just a few things that they're doing, which are good, but to me, I know it looks like we're going to be addressing the school problem, the overpopulation. And to me, we have an existing school that we're not going to use as a school. We're now using it as a health club and back. And it just looks like it's an expansion of government taking over a building where we have an adequate building right here. In 3 years, when wind does come online, we'll be having a significant amount of money being poured into the city. And I think prior to it, to work on this, there's payments of, say, almost $30 million prior to us open up, so the casino being opened up. I mean, to me, I'd like to see us start working on our commercial base and to work it down so that when the time comes, the properties that are down Lower Broadway will be taken by businesses, which will pay, obviously, the higher amount of taxes, which we keep because we don't have to provide a lot of services for them. I went to all this development, and everything seems to be residential. With residential comes from an increased need of services. You need more police, you need more safety, you need bigger schools. So we're doing things and bringing residential in, but we're not bringing in the commercial part of it. And I think, knowing the fact that the people in a couple of years will have money given back to them, which will reduce their taxes, which they deserve, help alleviate some of the water bills, which are through the roof, and provide some money for, general improvement of the area. So in 3 years, and I know it seems like a long way, but we'll be here quick, we should have our thumb on something and provide for the people of Everett, knowing that the people that go through the rough time, they're going to have a little bit of break to live here and make it a community. And I think the money from the 3 years prior to which we put directly on the commercial rate and try to attract some business there. I mean, we had Harley Davidson, we lost them. They're working on a triple net lease that was probably so crazy for them. It was probably cheaper for them to buy a building than to lease in our city. And that was a premier location on the Parkway, and they left that. So, I mean, I'm going to stick by my guns on this. I know no one's in favor of it, but I will vote for this for 90%. I don't care. I don't want to see money going anywhere but back to the people of Everett. Thank you.
Counsel Capone?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, I don't agree with the number, but I agree with the sentiment. I think that if you live in the city and you're running a business in the city, if you're not seeing a tax break for having a casino come into the city, then why would you want a casino in your city?
Exactly.
So
That's my sentiment, exactly.
I totally understand where the council's coming from, and in order to get a better idea of numbers, et cetera, could we please invite Rich Viscay before us?
Motion,
Is there a
second.
motion? Mr. Biscay?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, through you. Rich, do we have an idea of what we're anticipating gross revenues to come in as far as taxes from the casino at this point? Is it too far to project out?
Well, no, I mean, the host agreement says it's $25 million a year. And then, you know, there's a projection on meals taxes and rooms taxes that, you know, I think $30 million a year is a reasonable number to use for round figures. So I would agree with that number
Okay.
coming in 3 years.
And what would you anticipate would be bringing in an organization that large, that kind of an operation? What additional funds would you foresee need to be added to public safety issues, any city services issues that would be affiliated with that kind of a property coming into the neighborhood? Is that, I don't want to ask an unfair question.
Yeah, I
if you
mean,
don't know what that is, but,
it's safe to assume that we're going to need some more public safety, some more public works, et cetera. I mean, the specifics of how much that is,
Right.
I'm certainly not
Okay.
prepared to elaborate on that,
Yeah.
but there will certainly be some
Okay.
call for some additional firefighters and
Right.
police and city services, et cetera. So,
okay.
yeah, how much that is,
Yeah. And-
that's
and-
probably a better question for the department heads, and I'm sure time will tell and as we work through it, so.
Okay. And with that kind of an influx of cash, it would be a great opportunity to do infrastructure and things of that nature, renovations around the city. But obviously, we'd like to get as much of that money back to the taxpayer if we can. And 90% might be too high. Do you think 90% is too high in your opinion?
It seems a little high, but again, it's, just to back up a little, I just want to kind of explain a little bit that the revenue that comes in is all taxpayers' money. It all
Right.
goes into the general fund, so to that respect, I guess 100% of the money is the taxpayers' money.
Right.
What I think you guys are talking about, the council.
Trying to
Yeah,
abate
sorry,
the-
let me
abate
bring
the
my-
numbers a little
Let me bring
bit.
my city accent
Yeah.
down here, but saying how would the mayor propose to spend those dollars that are coming in into what departments? And
Right.
to that effect, it's, again, we propose a budget to the council, and you, as the council, see fit to cut however you like. So if we propose spending all $30 million and you want to cut $27 million of that, then I suppose 90% goes back to the taxpayer. So it's a little bit of a, it's not like this money goes into a special account and
Right.
we're going to be drawing out of it. This is general fund revenue, so there's a little bit of, I understand the intent of the motion, and I understand where, you know, everyone would like to see some of that money go to reduce taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
But for me to crystal ball and tell you how that's all going to play out when it happens and where the money's going to go and what kind of infrastructure, what kind of schools going to be being built and what kind of parks going to be being built. I mean, that's going to take, 36 months to see where we are at that point. And then when that revenue starts coming in, it all flows through the budget. The revenues come in, the expenditures go out. We propose it, and you guys deliberate, and you appropriate what you see fit.
And I don't have any additional questions for our auditor, but at some point, I see our assistant solicitors in the audience. I would have a question for him about whether or not we can even do this. Can we, or do we have to take it year by year? The budget comes in and try to go from there. So if there's any other questions of Mr. Fiscay, I'll you know.
I'd like to,
Councilman
while you have, Ms. Fiscay, do we also have, I believe, $5 million they were giving us for public safety on top of the 25?
I'm calling it, it's 20 million and 5 million, the way they describe it in the host agreement lays out what the money is
Yep.
kind of earmarked for, but the Mass General Law says all revenue of the city is general fund revenue unless otherwise stated or otherwise there's a law. So, again, $5 million might be for public safety, but the host agreement doesn't supersede Mass General Law. That says that's general fund money.
But what I'm saying is the 5 million is on top of the 25.
No,
before
it's
we
20
get to
million
the
and 5
taxes.
million. So there's 20 million and 5 million. The
Okay, now will
total,
there be taxes also, will we see room tax revenue also, on top of that 5, right?
yeah, and
Or is that-
meals tax and rooms tax will be separate as well.
Would be separate as well, so we're looking at quite a windfall.
Well, like $30 million, like I said, I believe is, you know,
So
maybe
even if
less, but, that's a decent number to use for.
Well, I mean, it's a decent number to use, but it's also, there should be money in there that should be earmarked to reduce taxes everywhere. I mean, we have the, and I'm not getting off thing, but kilter, but, you know, I'm looking down the road. If we can't use that money to attract business here, you know, okay, great, maybe we'll get a hotel from somebody. But as far as running businesses and having office parks, if we can't reduce our commercial rate down, we're not gonna get them here. And it wouldn't hurt to have you know, things like that here. So I mean, even though we have additional funds coming in, it's supposed to be like 10, 10, and 10, or if it's 5, 12 and a half, 12 and a half, could that money be earmarked to the commercial rate to get things going?
Well, that's a separate,
Yeah.
that $30 million, that's pre-construction
Yeah.
dollars is supposed to be for capital improvement funds. And again, that money is general fund revenue at this point right now as well. So there's certain things that we have to come up with
Well,
and
that'd be
figure out.
capital improvement where on that money that was allocated?
Well,
I mean, are we,
it's general fund revenue right now.
General
Honestly, it's
fund
all
revenue.
general fund revenue. There are discussions on how we can set something up so that money is used for capital. Again, the host agreement will say that this money is to be used in this manner and that manner. But when you go to the Department of Revenue and you show them the host agreement, they defer to the Mass General laws, which say this is all general fund revenue. So, again, a spending plan comes before you every year for the budget. If $30 million comes in and the administration decides they want to spend all $30 million on a myriad of things, it's the council's job to sort through that and decide, do we want to cut 90% of those initiatives so that 90% of those dollars go back to the taxpayer? That's all a matter of opinion on
Yeah.
what's put before you, what is good for the community, what you think is not so good, it's a matter of opinion at that point.
but, you know, it's great to say we have all this money for improvements, but it's also improvements for who? So we're gonna have improvements, and I'm gonna have some person who's barely hanging on to their house, and what about the tax and the water bills going up? We can't even give them relief, even though we have this magnificent place going down there, and that's what my issue is. Because I can see the money disappearing, I've been seeing things that have been going on, and I get a little nervous myself. You know, because I'm getting a little older myself living here. In 5 or 10 years, these are gonna be concerns for me. And anybody who does live here should have a concern. So I mean, if we're gonna get money, they're gonna give us, and we're gonna spend the money improving things for, you know, the casino, doesn't really make too much sense. Seeing they have all the money, the money we have should be used for some constructive, like a little tax relief, water relief, and that's the avenue I'm going down. 'Cause there's plenty of money down there.
I'm sure there's certain people who would like to see more money go to the schools, and I'm sure more people like to see it to
Exactly.
public safety and to infrastructure. Again, everybody may have a great way to spend this
Yep.
money, but the way it works is that the administration will put forward what they think is the best way to spend it, and then you, as a body, would vote to say, that's good, or that's not good. So, right now, there's no mechanism to just take a bunch of money and put it aside and use it for anything. It's general fund money at this point. And I just want to try to make
Maybe
everyone
this
understand
is-
how that
Maybe
works.
this is worded wrong, and maybe it should be that there's a certain percentage of this money that can be used for capital improvement only, instead of us just holding it. Maybe I'm writing this thing wrong, that we should use 90%, or maybe it should say that the city not allocate more than 25% per year of this money for improvements to the city of Everett.
Yeah, no, like I said, I understood the motion, but I'm just trying to be clear on the mechanics.
Yeah. All right, seems like there's a golden goose to improve the quality of life in the city on top of, you know, a casino. And that's all I'd like to see. I'm through.
Council Napolitano?
Thank you. Now, I know that the original request was for you, Mr. Skate, to come up here, but we also asked for a representative of the mayor's office, because it seems like some of the questions that are being directed to you are outside of your authority to talk about how money might be allocated. Can we invite the Assistant City Solicitor up?
Is there a second?
Second?
Second.
Good evening, Dave Rodriguez, Assistant City Solicitor, wearing many hats tonight.
Thank you for coming up.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, I agree with my colleagues here. I mean, I agree with the sentiment of being able to give the taxpayers some relief. You know, the city's been on a very aggressive approach for several years in upgrading properties, doing a lot of work and upgrading our infrastructure. But at some point in time, we can't lose sight of the fact that we have a captured tax base that cannot increase has some difficulties in trying to increase their revenue to address the increases that they're called on to pay. We heard in a different committee, and I'll get to a question. But we
No,
heard
sorry,
in
I
a-
was just clearing it.
We heard in a different committee about how what the income level was and about the idea of being able to provide more low-income housing, or cost-affordable housing in the city. You know, the majority of the people in the city are not, that are utilizing or benefiting from these expansions are not taxpayers. And the taxpayers themselves, I know myself, I own a rental property, I live in one of the units, but I can't raise my rents. I've had to eat the last few tax increases and water increases because if I were to raise my rent any more to compensate for that, I'm now pricing myself out of the Everett market. And where they have lower cost alternatives in Malden and Revere, you know, it's a struggle. Now, I guess having said all that, the reason I brought all that is because I want to know, is there any plan at any percentage to be able to give, whether it's residential or commercial or both, some type of tax relief with this money?
It's a very simple question with a very complicated answer. And from the very.
That's why I prefaced it with
Yeah.
all that explanation.
So from the philosophy that we had when we were constructing the host community agreement was this, is that you won't see specific projects and specific honeypots in there. You'll see the ability for the city to have maximum flexibility on how to spend this money throughout the life of the license. The life of the license is 15 years. And when we negotiated it with the mayor and his team, when we sat down, we had marathon sessions working these issues out. We wanted to be able to maximize the amount of revenue that we're going to receive and have that amount increase over the life of the license. We're fully anticipating a renewal after that 15-year lifespan, but we had to think in those 15 years. But we didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves within the host agreement by saying X amount of money always goes this way, X amount of money always goes that way, because frankly, we didn't have the power to do that. The power of appropriation lies with the city council. We couldn't commit the council to do something through a host agreement. To speaking to Councilor Capone's point, through this motion, you can't necessarily commit a future council to do something that is, to expend a certain amount of money in a certain way. So is there a plan? We're working on it. We understand that it's going to be very, very complicated on what the impact is going to be. We want to take a very careful and very deliberate approach to how it's going to approach things that we might not anticipate. We know that we're going to miss something. We know that things are going to happen that we didn't previously anticipate, which is why there's pots of money available through the Gaming Commission to be able to address those unanticipated costs. So we're exploring all those options as well. But we're also saying, what is this going to do to DPW? What is this going to do to ISD? What is this going to do to finance and in every single area? And we're exploring ways to fully assess that so that we can present an accurate accounting of how we need the money spent. The $5 million that was earmarked within the host agreement, the reason that that's included within there, that community impact fee, that's a statutorily required fee to be included in all host agreements. So you'll see that universally through all the executed host agreements throughout the state. We fully anticipate that it'll be north of $30 million. The numbers with the hotel tax were conservative. We did that on purpose. We did an estimate of, I think, an 85% occupancy at $200 per night throughout 52 weeks of the year, and that yielded between $2 and $3 million. We're anticipating at 500 rooms in the facility. It's now, the program is expanded to 629 rooms in the facility. We're expecting a market rate north of that number, and we're also planning on having at least one more hotel coming into the city at this point. So we're fully anticipating having over 1,000 rooms within the next 3 years here to be able to push those numbers up. The simple answer to the simple question is we have to hit the pitch that we see each year. So that individual flexibility that we're going to have allows us to address the problems as they come up. So in 1 year, if the council, in working in conjunction with the mayor and his financial team, chooses to offset taxes to a certain rate, but expend certain money to address certain problems that are there, that flexibility is included. And that's it's a great thing to have. Because there's things that are going to come up that we simply won't know. If there's a new school that we need, or roads that come up, Our stormwater system is in a state that's going to need some attention in the next few years. So we're gonna have to address those concerns. We didn't even know that was gonna be a concern when we were negotiating the host agreement, but now we have the ability to address some of those concerns and other concerns that are gonna come up later on.
And I'm glad to hear that, I mean, because I know one of the things that came up during the water sewer budget was a discussion about Lower Spring Street.
Mhm.
You know, I've been trying to get Spring Street, that issue repaired for 14 years. And the reason it still exists is because nobody wants to step up and take the responsibility for who is actually liable for that property. In the meantime, it's gonna continue to erode at our issues, you know, that problem now is just gonna get worse. So things like that, I definitely hope that this.
And we can speak
is
about
going-
that. We've been making some progress on that as well. So I'm happy to speak to you with that
The-
off.
The main thing
as
that
a-
I'm seeing here, though, is that, and that I'm concerned with, is that, again, because we've been on such an aggressive stance to replace equipment, to redo infrastructure. I mean, I've been involved in city government 20 years, and I've seen a lot of projects redone that I've had to question in my mind whether or not they actually had to be redone at that time. This isn't the venue for that discussion, but the bottom line is that the majority of the voters, by comparison to the taxpayers, the people who see the improvements and think we're doing great, while their landlords are potentially underwater with their properties or losing their properties, or the commercial business that we find because they're not able to keep their property up, yet because of the increases, we've removed their ability to reinvest back in their properties. I think it's important that the administration finds some way, right out of the gate. Yes, you have to address what's essential to get the casino on board. But the taxpayers in the city, residential or commercial, need some breathing space. Because the economy, it's not just what they pay to the city. I mean, I work in a customer service capacity where I hear from people every phone call about how the economy is kicking them, what they can afford, what they can't afford, and it's the same thing. It's many, many hands in people's pockets. And if one of these hands isn't the city returning some of that money, at least in the way of some type of tax relief, to the people who are been keeping the infrastructure up, been keeping the schools open, then I think we're going in the wrong direction. Most of the people I've spoken to, I spoke to when the casino was first proposed, was all looking at ways of being able to help lower their tax payments, get a better looking city. You know, these things won't happen unless there is a deliberate effort to move in that direction. And I believe that's what Councilman Marchese, and of course I don't pretend to speak for him, but I think that's what his intent is, and that's why I support the spirit of this. I think that the amount needs to be discussed, but there is money coming this year, correct, from them?
Yeah, there's, in pre-opening, so all the $20 million, quote, 121A payment, or the pilot payment, comes 30 days after opening. The $5 million community impact fee comes 30 days after opening, which we're anticipating to be late in 2017. The $30 million up front, the first initial payment of $5 million is received $30 million after the beginning of construction. So that's kind of a softer date, but it is, and Rich can expound on this a little bit, in having $30 million is great to have up front, but we have to be careful because it's one-time revenue. It's coming in once and it's never coming back.
And that's the other side of it, that's where our concerns are
Yeah.
also. Because yes, we have to address what's necessary to get the casino on board, but at the same time, I think we also need to be cautious not to spend it all if we don't have to.
Sure.
So we can apply it in some other areas.
And to the point of whether it would be dangerous to and other communities have experienced this, where they take one-time payments or they take lump sum payments and they apply it directly to the tax rate. It'll artificially deflate the tax rate, and then it'll immediately go right back up because that money's not coming back. So it's important to understand those mechanisms and those mechanics as that goes. And if we can do both, if we can use $30 million up front, and that's why this process exists, and I think that speaks to Rich's point as he was articulated earlier, is that's why the appropriations process exists through the mayor to the council.
Have we received any money to date?
No.
No.
Well,
Will we receive funds?
Have we received-
Well, I mean significant funds. in this agreement?
We've received a large amount of pre-development planning through grant payments through the Gaming Commission, which was from WIN. So it's an indirect payment from WIN to the city that was used to pay pre-development consultants, pre-licensing consultants, to about $750,000 that we spent.
How much is anticipated being applied toward the next fiscal year? The budget that we'll be approving in May.
Zero.
So no money will actually come into us until the opening, is that right?
Until none of the $25 million will come in. And of course, not meals taxes or hotel taxes because the facility's not open. The budget that we're creating to address in lieu of a permit fee, that's the budget that we're creating now. And that has its, and Rich and I have been, camping out in each other's offices working on this budget. So that, viewing that separately, because that will address exact costs, so that's a zero-sum game in terms of revenue income. But in terms of money that's allocated within, hard dollars that are allocated within the host agreement, nothing will be received from the city until a building permit is pulled, which we don't necessarily, it's very tough to, we haven't seen a hard and fast construction schedule yet because they haven't selected their general contractor. Once they do that, then we'll have a better sense of exactly how the timeline will go. Sorry, I know it's kind of
I
a
think-
different patchwork answer, but that's.
No, but that answered my question, and it did clear up a little bit.
If I could, well,
There are
okay.
people that think that the city has already received the $25 million. I know that's not the case. I wanted that on the record.
No, that's, yeah.
There are people that.
Believe me,
other
that
people
would have definitely been in the news, I assure you, that we would have let
And
people
for
know.
my own question, as far as how much is potentially applied on our next fiscal year, which we're gonna be approving a budget for, you were only talking about construction permits and that revenue coming in through that venue, not through the host agreement.
The Department of Revenue's been pretty clear that they're not gonna allow us to anticipate dollars until they're in the door. So I can't balance a budget based upon what may come and when it may come. So they're only gonna allow us to use dollars when they see them come in. The first significant payment we will receive at some point will be $5 million towards this pre-construction, pre-opening capital improvement fund, community enhancement fee. Again, barring anything that says otherwise, that revenue would be general fund revenue. However, we are discussing ways to try to get that money to be used for the purpose of community enhancement, i.e. capital improvements. But I don't have any guarantee when that money's coming in, and therefore, we wouldn't want to propose spending that money. So, and then the operating budget itself, there'll be no dollars earmarked for the fiscal year 16 budget, other than those dollars that we anticipate getting reimbursed in lieu of the Department of Game and Accountability and the related costs that we intend on expending to start that permitting process.
Rich made a very important point, and I buried the lead a little bit, that we have been in speaking to the planning aspect of how, how we're approaching this and how this money's coming in and how the money's gonna be going out. We've been meeting with the Department of Revenue, the Gaming Commission, just so we can fully flesh out exactly what all these things mean. Under our responsibilities under the Gaming Act, our responsibilities under municipal finance law, our responsibilities under the host community agreement. So we're taking this very deliberately and very seriously. And so because we know that everybody's looking at us. We know that we're under a big microscope. We know we have one chance to do it right, and we want to make sure that we do.
Well, that's fine, because again, a lot of these questions are what the public's hearing and are under the impression, and this is the information I wanted to scope out. We're a partnership here, city council and the administration. I would hope that any additional information coming out on this, that we're able to hear it in this chamber first, before we read in the press release in the local papers.
Oh, yeah.
As has been the practice for the past year. Most announcements, now granted, that's a separate issue.
Okay.
And I'll be more than happy to discuss that in private. But the thing
Please do.
is that a lot of information we get after the fact. In this situation, because of the critical natures of it, the fact that everybody's watching, and again, we all want it to be as transparent as possible. If we can get information about when funds are available, when revenue is coming in, things like this here first, before it goes into a press release, I think it gives us a bit of an edge, because now we feel more of a part of it. And we can address the questions from the residents.
Sure.
When I'm asked about a particular issue, and I'm hearing about it for the first time, and we haven't been notified here in our official capacity, there's a problem.
Yeah,
Communication needs to be.
You can rest assured, there haven't been any big checks or any of the big novelty checks coming through. Yeah, that's, so, well, you'll be informed ahead of that.
Thank you. No problem.
Counsel Simonelli?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman, please, gentlemen. We're talking this, 30 million, is this per a year or just one time? Every year we're gonna get 30 million?
Which 30 million? There's 30 million upfront in the 3 years during construction, so it's split up 5, 12 and a half, 12 and a half. And then we're anticipating 30 million a year. We don't know exactly what that number's gonna be, because 20 million of it is in a 121A pilot, 121A payment in lieu of taxes. $5 million is a community impact fee, and then any additional money over that will be meals taxes, hotel room taxes, excise taxes, and other fees. So that's the number we can't pin down.
So I understand. Is it every year we're gonna get this money?
We're gonna get money every year.
Every year, as long
Every
as
year.
the casinos there?
As long as they're there, as long as they're operating, we're getting money every year.
Okay, now, this 30 million, you think, did we really rush in too much? You think we could have got more money this year than 30 million?
No,
Why?
because, and without going into it, that's the number. That's where we came down. That's where we.
But is that
if
the
there-
normal? Is that
If
a?
there was, this was the first host community agreement executed in the Commonwealth. It was the first host community agreement executed under the Gaming Act. And we set the benchmark for everybody else.
So you're saying
Everybody else, and let me just tell you, everybody else came after us because they had to, because they had to go back and renegotiate their contract, renegotiate their host agreements, because we got a better deal than they were getting. So we really set the pace and we really set the trend on what other towns were getting. To quote the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and where they wanted to build down in Foxwoods, he said, "I want Everett money." That's what he was talking about. So,
But also, I mean, the Springfield, do we get a better deal than they're gonna get down Springfield and the 30 million?
they're
Or is that the set?
different, they're different deals, they're structured differently, but it's a comparable deal, and we're a much smaller city. So if you go dollar for dollar, in terms of, if you look at the money, if you look at Springfield's budget, and then you look at
I mean, that town
Everett's
needs
budget,
it. That town, really good things for that town, so yeah.
it's great. And we did this analysis when Boston executed their host agreement with Suffolk Downs and Mohegan Sun then, is Boston's budget is north of $1 billion. They spend over $1 billion there. So it was a drop in the bucket for them. If you're talking in terms of impact, $30 million on a tax levy that's
91 million.
$91 million, that's a third of our tax levy. The impact is enormous. So you have to value judgment the impact of the agreement that way, not necessarily just raw dollars.
Okay, one more question I got there. Now, because, this is always bothered me, because Mr. Nguyen is, well, he's giving this money to us, you know, I mean, what are we expecting for him in return? He wants to give us 30 million, and I'm sure he's gonna get 100 million back. I think he's starting with it already. By this job that he brought up, we heard nothing about it, and we have to pay for it, the taxpayers. I think he should pay for it, Mr. Nguyen, that job. Which job I don't think the liaison job, which I really don't think we even need. But, I mean, why was that not discussed, like you say before, it wasn't discussed here before that job? And we're paying, this year, we're paying, because the person's been working there, and we're paying them just for this, you know, for this fiscal year, then we're gonna pay them continue with the regular salary. I'm just saying, why can't,
He is gonna pay for a counselor. That's the deal. He's gonna reimburse us for those expenses, so,
he is?
yes.
Okay, but I'm just saying in the future.
And Counselor, we had a very good discussion on this in the Ways and Means Committee earlier in the week.
I was here.
I didn't realize you were here, so you might have been in the audience. So I think that's a good discussion, a good discussion that we're gonna continue to have in the next Ways and Means hearing. And, you know, we'll continue the discussion, address the committee's concerns with that, and do our best to increase communication when it comes to those
I
things.
mean, it's for the people of Everett. I mean, it isn't for the big corporation, the Wynn Corporation here. I'm just concerned again, that he may wanna come and start taking over this whole city, because we gave him this money. And it ain't gonna happen. It shouldn't happen, but it should be, everything should be out front with this guy, and he loves Everett, he says, so, he loves Everett so much, I think he deserves to give us whatever we need, and not what he wants. I mean, in a way, what he wants is okay, but if he gets too far off and the council votes it in which they shouldn't, you know, it's wrong. So, that was my opinion. All right, thank you very much.
Councilor Marchese?
Quick question. You said we'd get the first payment when work starts. What's the definition of work?
Construction, when construction begins in the host agreement, it's when they pull a building permit.
So we may not see this for another year.
Depends on when we're negotiating exactly what that means right now,
Yeah.
which building permit it is.
Yeah.
If it's the foundation permit,
Yeah.
that's much sooner.
That's what I thought I
Much, much
was, that's what I was
sooner.
asking.
If it's
Is that,
because just for the clarification of the members and clarification of the people watching at home, the construction is gonna go horizontally and vertically. So if they pull one of the horizontal permits, the foundation, the civil utilities, any of the transportation improvements on site, any of those things, that might mean it. If they start to go vertical, now you're talking structural, electrical, plumbing, build-outs. I mean, that would be much later. But we're gonna push to make sure that it's tagged with foundation permit and not
Okay.
any of the vertical
that's good.
construction.
Thank you.
Councilor Capone?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't want to belabor it. There's just a couple of quick things I want to request from you as city solicitor, assistant city solicitor. I know that you started to address the budget process. Now, this is listed as an order. And my question is, it would be year to year, up to the council to do whatever they want to do with the budget that comes forward with regards to cutting. But twofold question. One, do we have the authority to order the mayor to reduce taxes if we push them? It's more of a resolution, because separation of powers, you got another branch, can't do it.
Well, to address the first question.
Sure.
We'll talk about the second question after. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because, well, you're also obliging, this is not a majority of the city council.
Right.
And
This is
the council would be
subcommittee,
obliging,
correct.
Would be ensuring that the entire city council would be ordering them, and they would
Right.
have to vote on the order at large. But they have full power to do that later on if they choose.
Right.
Later on, but they can't order the mayor to present a budget that would conform in a certain way.
Correct.
Outside of ordinance in general language to say, well, we're obligated, the mayor's obligated under law to deliver a balanced budget. He can't deliver a budget that's out of balance. That's
Okay.
by state law. And I'm turning to Rich because he's our financial
Yeah.
guru guy, so I want to make sure that I'm saying the right things.
No,
But we
yeah.
can't obligate the mayor to
Right.
reduce taxes.
I
in
don't,
order.
yeah, I don't think, I mean, what would stop you from doing it in any year? I
Right.
mean, although this is a big, great development, the casino and the revenues, it's a function of the government and taxes anyway. It's still the revenue coming in and expenditures going out. It's a large number, it's $30 million, it's, a lot of things could be done, but the functionality of how government works is still the same. Those are estimated revenues in, and those estimated revenues in have to balance to the expenditures out. Budgets are balanced and as presented to you, and then at that point, your way of reducing taxes is cutting the budget. That's always been your right, and it will continue to be.
And to that point, that's the second part of the question. Just because we cut funds from the budget doesn't necessarily mean that those are going to go back to the ratepayer. It's just a matter, may find another way, or you have to put certain things on hold, or,
Well, that's-
anything like that.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think if you cut a budget, there's only so many ways you can, if the appropriation is not there to pay for a certain thing, we're not just allowed to
Yeah.
make up a different way. I mean, there may be a Band-Aid approach, but to the extent, if you cut a budget, those dollars typically will
Right.
just reduce the amount of money we can spend, and, I mean, let's take it as $100 million in and $100 million out. If you decide to cut $1 million, $99 million out, then you'd create $1 million of savings. I mean, that's the function of how it would work.
Right. And to the point, just because it gets cut doesn't mean that the rate comes down. It's just the funds aren't available to do whatever projects might have been
I mean,
designed to be done.
it's not a simple answer, but, yeah, I mean, the taxes could theoretically go down if the budget's cut by $1 million. It's, again, what else could happen is free cash could go up, and then how those dollars are used may be offset, and how next year's funds are going. So it's not just a clear, like, okay, you cut this, and this is gonna be the savings. It's not an easy math exercise, but to the greater good of cutting a budget, those dollars would theoretically go to free cash, which has to come back for you to spend, so it's the system that we have, but that's the mechanics of it.
All right, thank you. And obviously, cleaning up that site, in my eyes, cleaning up the site is the biggest benefit, and this just happens to be additional benefit that comes with it. And as you say, we are a subsection of the full council. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not money would be used to reduce tax rates and things of that nature. And the only thing that you're here representing the mayor's office, so from this subsection, I want to make sure that the message is very, very clear that something that is extremely important to this council is that the ratepayer, both commercial and residential, is going to get some significant benefit to having a casino in the community. And I think that everyone has kind of expressed that. So I appreciate you guys coming and answering questions. I have no further questions.
Councilor Marchese?
Well, seeing that it seems that we can't come up here and ask for a 90% goal there, can we restrict the amount of money spent per year on capital, I guess we would have to just cut what we could if we didn't seem right, because it
Yeah.
seems like it's going to a general fund.
The council is the spending
But
authority.
it's not a tax, it wasn't taxes, that's why I thought this would be something separate.
It's not taxes, but what it is, with the way the law is structured, this is gonna be set up as a 121A, which is similar to, it's an urban renewal development, I believe. Urban redevelopment, which basically allows them to get some specific amount, so that it's not as if we're gonna try to assess a $1.7 billion thing and they come in for a $800 million abatement and we have to deal with that. The idea of this agreement was to say, we know how much money we got coming in. That money comes in just like taxes. If you look at the total budget, this city's budget's $191 million for fiscal year 15. $91 million of that is tax revenue. $100 million of that is state aid. It's motor vehicle excise. It's this. So this particular money will come in just like any other revenue. And then from those revenues, we propose an
But do we have
expenditure plan.
access to that? Who controls, is that, the mayor control that purse, or do we have
Well,
any control over
the
it?
revenues that come in, we
I
look
mean,
at.
when my neighbor says, gee, you got 30 million coming in, it's not a taxes, it's sitting on the account over there, and they're down there putting in roads in there to accommodate the casino, or you widen the streets to accommodate the casino. He goes, we're not benefit from that. That's my concern. Tell me how I answer them if I can't tell them, so.
Oh,
To that specific.
It's not a tax.
No, but to that specific point about roads accommodating for the casino, the widening of Lower Broadway and the improvements at Sweetser Circle, at Santilli Circle.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be
Broadway,
on us.
It's not.
It's not.
It's on
Exactly.
them.
So
They're
there's 30
obligated to-
million there for something.
They're obligated to make those improvements under MEPA, under their.
Yeah, because we
environmental
just
impact
passed
statements.
something even about the, couple weeks about new businesses coming in and, what do they call it? The,
Linkage.
Linkage, right? So I mean, that
This is-
wouldn't,
This has, imagine this project has super linkage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to make in a vast, they're on the hook for
Which-
probably over $100 million.
yeah,
in
which
road
I'm excited about, but it's still the same thing. We want relief. We're putting this down there, it's gonna inconvenience us. Why do I have to pay high taxes? Why can't I have some water relief? Why can't I say, oh, put $3 million, could that be done from us, or does it have to come from the corner
well,
office?
I just,
Is it a personal,
It
you know,
has to be
to
done,
become a,
and frankly, it has to be done together. That each branch has a role, that's why you're co-equal branches.
so we can actually bring that up for a vote and send it to mayor for his approval
well, I don't
on
think,
that fund?
No.
I think what's being lost is that the council's role is an appropriating body. So you spend every dollar that we bring in. So theoretically, we propose a budget,
Yeah.
and you deliberate it, and then you dispose of it however you choose. Now,
On tax revenue, but this is a tax
no,
revenue.
but this is,
Treated the same.
it's treated the same. It's coming in as the revenues come in, I have to account for them coming in. And then, for instance, this year, fiscal year 15, I can say, when I do the numbers and I look at the history, and I can tell them, hey, we're expected $191 million in, and he'll say, I want to spend $191 million out. He might say, I want to spend $189 million out. He might say, I want to spend $160 million out. That's for him to say, but that's where he would come up with his plan for what's best for the city. Then we give it to the council, and now the council may have their own ideas, because I hear loud and clear, people want to lower taxes here, but there may be other people in other parts of the city that would rather say, hey, you know what, I'm good with my taxes, but I want to see better schools, better infrastructure. That's a fact. I mean, so you talk to your constituents, and if they say, hey, we just want to see lower taxes, then
And
you
then
go
how
ahead
do
and
we
cut.
react on it? And
You
how
cut
do
the-
we
you-
react?
you
There's
cut-
11 people here. My people, three want lower taxes.
You
I
cut
vote
the-
they want around the rest of the city.
You cut the budget.
Cut the budget. Okay, I vote against that. There's 10-1 I lose. So what that?
But
what does
that's,
that do?
again,
That's the process. That's why you
that's
have a lot of
government,
numbers.
council,
Well,
I'm
saying-
sorry.
So at least if I know there was a stopgate somewhere, that 30 million coming in, I know that 15 million is the most that the city can spend in one given year on capital improvements, and 15 million is gonna be designated back on a tax leak. We can't do that?
That's an action that the council has to take together.
It's
Yeah.
a,
Okay, well, that's
11
what we're
members have
trying to
to
do here
Yeah.
together, and I think that's something
Through
that
the budget process.
we
the
should,
council, not through an order saying that X amount can be spent in a certain way. This is all done through the appropriations process of the budget.
I think Council Napolitano said it, there's gotta be some teamwork, there's gotta be some ways to, this council may have to try to talk to the mayor and give an idea of what you'd like to see in it, and he's the executive branch, and we propose a budget, and you're the legislative branch, and you do what you want with that budget, but.
giving the mayor what he wants, but I think that the people in the trenches deserve a little break, seeing what, we're bringing this here. If we're not gonna bring it here, don't bring it here if we're not gonna benefit from it. It doesn't make sense. That's my take on it.
Again, I mean, there may be educators that would say, I'd love to see $30 million go right into the school system, and that might be what some people want to see, and some people might want to see $30 million go right into the police and fire. It's, everybody has an idea of what's best with the dollars, and all I can say is that I believe that as a body, as a administration, we have and will continue to bring forward the best budget we can bring forward that's going to provide the services and the stability of taxes and the infrastructure that the city needs.
And an additional important, building off what Rich was saying and off what Councilor Marchese was going off of, I understand that, people thought the license was awarded, okay, great, money's coming in now. It's not how it worked, because it's not how the agreement was. So although people have not seen a benefit yet, they will see a benefit in the future. So it's gonna be part of our outreach to explain exactly what that is as part of our If It Works program, bringing up in the trade fair that we're gonna be having up at the high school on April 8th. We'll explain all this, and we're gonna give project updates and have our website up soon and work on social media, and it's been a slow and arduous process, but we're making progress and making sure that people have all this information.
Council Napolitano, I just want to let you know, Council Marchese did ask to refer back to sponsor, but you can ask your question and then.
Yeah, I actually just want to make sure that I get some clarification. I want to clarify something. Because I definitely understand and your explanation of us being an appropriating body. But I know that the average taxpayer does not understand it the same way. I base that based on the fact that just for us to be able to keep our seats means that we talk to taxpayers on a regular basis. We have to, okay? And we don't make it, I myself, I'm not gonna speak for anybody else, we don't make any assumptions on some areas might want this, some areas want that. We go on based on what we hear. But yes, we are the appropriating body. But we're reviewing the mayor's budget. When we receive the book, it comes into us as the mayor's budget. Now then, you're right, our job is to review it and make decisions, and then hopefully collectively to make decisions to cut or not cut. But there isn't a councilman in the city who has not been in a position where we have asked about lowering taxes when tax season comes up, and we get it thrown back in our face that, well, you approved it. Some of us might approve it, some of us may disagree with an item being approved. Communication's important here, and I think as long as we're working together, you're right, we have no idea of what the mayor's long-term plans are with the money as far as what capital improvements. Capital improvements are great, but you also have to address other issues as well. And there is a balance, and I just would hope, that when we see the budget this year, that we're able to see that balance, because we cannot keep going in the direction we're going. We can't go on with a blank check mentality, and I'm not accusing anybody here of having a blank check mentality, but spending it because we have it isn't enough. Spending it properly so we can address what we have to get done and maybe give people who are paying the freight a little bit of relief, that's just as equally important. Okay? I actually have nothing further to say.
Excuse me, Councilman, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. This motion referred back to sponsor, and just hope that in the future, that we become more restricted with our pay, and we assume a little more responsibility and be more demanding as a council here, demand that the taxes go down, and just work a little bit more for the taxpayers. That's all I have to say.
Is there a second?
Second.
Refer it back to sponsor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 3.
Item number 3. This is a resolution up by Council Frank Capone, that a representative from the mayor's office, a representative from the city service, and a representative from ISD appear at this meeting to discuss implementation of the new snow removal ordinance.
Council Capone?
Do we have anyone here from the mayor's office this time? This is the second time.
Actually, he just left.
Yeah, so,
Representing the mayor's
but I think for the other piece, I don't think he was representing for this piece. Okay, why don't we make a recommendation that will hold us over, and instead of a representative, I would like the mayor to come to our committee meeting.
Could I comment on that one thing before? I was reading something that we spent $9,000 to take in like 2,500 in fees. We spent $9,000 to take 2,500 in fees. There's something wrong. You're talking about spending stupid money. This is why, when I say 90% or some protection line, even though we can't, and I believe me, I brought that 90% up because I knew it wasn't taxes. It shouldn't be anybody's private piggy bank, and that's what disturbed me about it. And seeing how they do spend money up here, that's the perfect reason. Thank you. And I'm second on your motion also.
Okay.
Councilman Napolitano, on the motion.
Yeah, I mean, I think the intent when we passed the snow removal ordinance was that the ISD would have some would be flexible this year. That would mean that, yes, they're gonna need to send out warnings to identify to people that they have an issue, especially given the lateness of us passing the ordinance and getting the information out to the public. Yeah, I don't want to see such a mismatch in the future where we spent $9,000 to get in, a small amount of fees. But I think that was understood when we passed it, that there would be predominantly warnings given this first season as a test case to make people aware of it. I wouldn't expect that mismatch to continue year to year to year. If it does, then yeah, then we do have a serious problem. But I think this first year, I would consider that $9,000 as an investment in informing the public, no different than if we put it in the newspapers or however else we inform the public of any issue. If we had passed this thing in September, which just wasn't possible, perhaps we could have gotten more information out there. They wouldn't have had to be out there and keep sending out as many warnings. But I do believe that the intent was for predominantly warnings this first season, to be able to let the public, give the public some breathing space. We don't want to go out there hard and fast and just all of a sudden, hey, guess what, we got an ordinance, it's going to cost you $300.
But why would you have to put people overtime if you just have your regular crew, they can write the same amount of checks? You don't have to do it 2 in the morning, you can do it 7 when they go to work.
No cross debate, please.
No, he's beside me, that would be cross debate.
I can't answer that question, but.
Are you all set, Councilman Napolitano?
Yes.
Okay, Council Simonelli?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just got one comment here, I guess because of maybe that we didn't get that much revenue, I think we have a 2-year trial period, and the 2 years, I think that was too long anyway, but it should have been just cut to 1, but because of that 2-year period, we're giving out warnings more than giving out the fines. But because they made it this way, they wanted people to learn, but I think that's why the money coming back to us wasn't there, because we gave out warnings and warnings and warnings. So, like I would like to say again, I would rather see this should maybe just the 1 year that we had and start next year and buckling down. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Capone?
Thank you.
Before you speak, I
Yep.
just want to say one thing.
Sure.
Do you think we should bring the ordinance in front of us, so that if this is something we're going to be discussing, that we need to change anything? That maybe we should
Well,
have this?
I think that with regards to the purposes of why I put it on the calendar, wasn't so much to make changes yet, because we're still, well, now we're at the tail end of it. But at the time, we were still in the middle of it, and there were some significant questions I had, and some questions we needed answers to before we could do anything. And it's gonna be a work in progress, and I know this winter was ridiculous. Yet we won't see another winter like that. But the concern I had was that we were told it wasn't gonna result in more manpower, wasn't gonna result in overtime. We could handle it with what we have for resources. It's not an issue. When we had the department heads here, clearly that isn't the case. You know, they felt stretched to go ahead and go give out citations. And we're not looking to penalize people, we're not looking to raise revenue off of this. We just want compliance so people aren't walking in the street. So the concern I have is that there were quite a few sidewalks that belonged to the city that weren't done. There were bus stops. You brought the point up at the last committee meeting. Bus stops, people are in the street waiting for a bus because the city's not clearing off the areas that we need to clear off. There were walkways that were blocked. And the problem is, before we as a city can go turn to an individual homeowner or business owner and say, hey, you have to clean your sidewalk, we got to take care of our house. And our department heads couldn't speak to it. It's not their realm, and it's not fair to put them on that spot. So that's why we needed a representative from the mayor's office, because we have to see, is this a workable ordinance? Are we able to do it within the constraints that we have without raising any additional expenses for the taxpayers? They're already stretched to the max, and we all feel that, and we all want that reduced. So those are the concerns we had, and I still don't have the answers because we still don't have anybody in front of us. So this is the second time this committee has had these questions that can't be answered. So we need to answer them. And then once we get the answer to those questions, then at some point we can readdress this ordinance and see if there's something that we need to do, or do we need to chuck the whole ordinance? I don't know. But at this particular point in time, I still don't have the answers to the questions that I need. So the motion that I would make is refer this to send it out to the committee, to the council, requesting further time and requesting that the mayor himself appear at our next committee meeting.
Second.
So we have a motion to request further time and invite the mayor personally. Do we still want the ISD also?
We don't need to bother them. We got our answers from the department
So
heads.
we'll just have the,
Yeah,
we're just gonna have the
it's an
mayor
administrative
appear
issue
at
that
the
we
next
have.
committee meeting.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion to adjourn, all in favor? Meeting adjourned.